the friends that I have.
Democrats in the media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's...
Tensions on The View have never been higher. What started as a routine discussion quickly spiraled into an all-out media firestorm when Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history, took the panel to task. Her bold revelations and unfiltered responses left the show's hosts scrambling, exposing deep-seated biases and igniting a national debate. But this isn't just another heated moment on daytime television. This could mark a turning point for The View itself. With backlash mounting and audiences growing increasingly divided, is the long-running talk show on the verge of collapse? And more importantly, does this controversy reveal a bigger issue within mainstream media? Let's break it all down. When Karoline Leavitt made her appearance on The View, she probably expected some tough questions. What she might not have anticipated was the outright dismissal of her qualifications and the personal attacks that followed. It all started when Joy Behar, never one to hold back, made a comment that immediately sparked outrage. In a dismissive tone, she suggested that Leavitt only secured her role as White House press secretary because, in her words, she was a 10 in Donald Trump's eyes. The insinuation was clear. Leavitt's success wasn't due to her competence or experience, but rather her appearance. This remark wasn't just insulting. It was the kind of rhetoric that would have been condemned had it been directed at a liberal woman in a similar position. Then came Whoopi Goldberg, who doubled down on the attack, but from a different angle. She argued that Leavitt's position was not earned through merit, but was instead a product of wokeness. Goldberg went as far as to claim that without wokeness, Leavitt wouldn't even have the job. The implication? That her role was some kind of political tokenism rather than a legitimate appointment. But Leavitt didn't back down. Instead of allowing these remarks to go unchallenged, she fired back, exposing the hypocrisy at play. She pointed out that the same people who claim to advocate for women's empowerment are often the first to tear down conservative women. She reminded the hosts and the audience that her career didn't start in the White House briefing room. She had extensive political experience, including working as a spokesperson and strategic communicator for prominent Republican figures. Her counterargument was clear. If wokeness were truly the deciding factor in political appointments, then the previous White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, would have faced similar criticism. But instead, her race and sexual orientation were frequently celebrated as key milestones in history. The double standard was undeniable. Leavitt's response not only put the hosts on the defensive, but also struck a nerve with viewers. Many took to social media to call out Behar and Goldberg for their blatant contradictions. How could The View, a show that prides itself on standing up for women, reduce a young female press secretary's achievements to nothing more than her looks? And if wokeness was truly the foundation for her success, why wasn't that same argument applied to others in similar positions? What started as a discussion about political appointments quickly turned into a much larger conversation about media bias, hypocrisy, and the selective application of feminist ideals. And for The View, this was only the beginning of the fallout. The media's response to Leavitt's appearance was telling. Rather than focusing on her experience, policy knowledge, or performance as White House press secretary, many outlets zeroed in on the same dismissive talking points used by The View. Some journalists and commentators echoed Joy Behar's claim, implying that Leavitt's youth and appearance played a bigger role in her appointment than her actual abilities. Others latched onto Whoopi Goldberg's wokeness argument, suggesting that the very existence of a young conservative woman in such a high-profile role was somehow an anomaly or a political stunt. But here's where the hypocrisy became impossible to ignore. When former White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was appointed, the media widely celebrated her as a groundbreaking figure, praising her for being the first Black and openly LGBTQ+ woman to hold the position. Her personal identity was constantly referenced as a historic milestone, and any criticism of her performance was quickly dismissed as politically motivated or even bigoted. Yet when Leavitt, a young woman rising to prominence in the same role, faced criticism, those same voices who had championed women breaking barriers carriers suddenly went silent. Instead of celebrating another woman in a powerful position, the media was quick to scrutinize her credentials and belittle her achievements. The contrast was impossible to ignore, and conservative commentators wasted no time in calling it out. Fox News and other right-leaning outlets highlighted the hypocrisy, pointing out that liberal women in politics are often shielded from personal attacks, while conservative women are relentlessly mocked, insulted, and dismissed. Social media erupted with comparisons between the way Leavitt was treated versus how the media had defended figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Kamala Harris, and Jean-Pierre from similar scrutiny. One viral tweet summed up the frustration perfectly. If Karoline Leavitt were a Democrat, she'd be on magazine covers as a trailblazing young woman in politics. Instead, the media is mocking her looks and questioning her competence. The hypocrisy is blatant. Others pointed out how mainstream media has a long history of smearing conservative women while simultaneously claiming to support women's empowerment. Figures like Sarah Palin, Nikki Haley, and Melania Trump have all been subjected to demeaning comments about their intelligence, appearance, or personal lives, while liberal politicians and activists are given a free pass on their missteps. Public sentiment was clear. The View and its media allies had exposed their own bias in real time. Instead of engaging in a substantive debate about policy or qualifications, they resorted to personal attacks and ideological gatekeeping. And for many Americans, this wasn't just about Karoline Leavitt, it was about the broader issue of how the media selectively chooses which women to support and which to tear down. This wasn't just an isolated moment of bias. It was a reflection of a much larger problem within the mainstream press. And as the backlash continued to grow, it became evident that The View wasn't just facing criticism from conservatives. It was losing credibility among everyday viewers who were tired of the media's double standards. Even before the Leavitt controversy, tensions had been simmering among The View panelists. While the show thrives on differing opinions, the ideological divide between the more liberal hosts, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, and the token conservative voice on the panel has been growing wider. Behind the scenes, reports have surfaced about growing frustration among the hosts. Insiders claim that the show's liberal-leaning personalities have become increasingly intolerant of viewpoints that challenge their narratives. This was on full display during Leavitt's segment, where the hosts were visibly rattled by her ability to push back against their claims. Instead of engaging in a balanced debate, they resorted to personal jabs and deflections, something that even some longtime viewers found off-putting. Further evidence of internal discord came when Alyssa Farah Griffin, the show's resident conservative voice, appeared hesitant to fully engage in the attacks on Leavitt. While Griffin has positioned herself as a moderate Republican, she seemed noticeably uncomfortable as her co-hosts ramped up their criticism of Leavitt. This only fueled speculation that The View's producers are struggling to maintain a semblance of ideological balance, even as the show's liberal voices dominate the conversation. The fallout from the Leavitt controversy has sparked a wave of criticism from viewers and media commentators alike. Many pointed out that The View has increasingly become an echo chamber rather than a platform for genuine discussion. The show's reputation as a forum for diverse perspectives has been called into question, with some arguing that its approach to conservative guests has become outright hostile. Viewer reactions have reflected this growing discontent. Social media platforms were flooded with comments from both conservatives and moderates expressing their disappointment in how Leavitt was treated. Many questioned why The View even invites conservative guests if they're not allowed to speak without being interrupted or belittled. Even more concerning for ABC, the controversy appears to be affecting The View's ratings. While the show has remained a staple of daytime television, recent years have seen fluctuating viewership numbers, with some suggesting that its increasingly combative tone is turning off key demographics. If audiences begin to see The View as nothing more than a partisan attack platform, ABC could face significant challenges in maintaining its broad appeal. Despite the growing controversy, ABC has remained noticeably silent on the matter. No official statements have been issued addressing the backlash, nor has there been any attempt to clarify or defend the remarks made on air. This silence could be a calculated decision. ABC may be hoping the controversy dies down on its own rather than risking further attention by addressing it directly. However, some media analysts believe that ABC's refusal to step in may backfire. In the past, the network has been quick to issue statements when liberal figures on the show faced criticism, but its lack of response here only adds fuel to accusations of bias. If ABC continues to ignore the backlash, it may reinforce the perception that The View is unwilling to hold itself accountable for unfair treatment of conservative voices. With tensions mounting both on and off the air, the big question remains: can The View sustain its current format without alienating a significant portion of its audience? If the show continues down this path, it risks becoming a platform that only preaches to the choir, something that could ultimately hurt its long-term viability. The Karoline Leavitt controversy has exposed cracks in The View's foundation. Whether ABC addresses them or not, one thing is clear: the era of The View dominating daytime political discussion without pushback may be coming to an end. As The View faces mounting backlash and the media landscape continues to evolve, one question remains: will mainstream platforms embrace open discourse, or will they double down on ideological gatekeeping? What do you think? Is The View at risk of losing its credibility, or is this just another media controversy that will blow over? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on the latest media shakeups and political showdowns, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next.